What is the most genius way to cheat on an exam you have ever seen? Most of the time I didn't see it. I only saw the times people got caught. For me it was when online classes started being a thing. Prof told us the system would check if you had the notes open in another tab and would auto close any of the same instance of the notes, so you couldn't have the notes and the test open at the same time. It actually did close the other tabs/windows to my surprise. Nothing stopped me from copying all of the class content into a Word document. After enough of that I realized I could have the test open in Explorer and have the notes open in Firefox. Yesterday my class had a science test on an iPad. My friend searched the questions on the internet and airdropped the answers to everybody. The best place to hide things is right in plain sight. We had old desks that had all sorts of wear on them. So I simply wrote what I needed on my desk really lightly with a pencil. You could even erase it with a swipe of your hand if the teacher thought something was up. I used to type my answers into a grid and make the font a size 2 or something. I could fit 50 Spanish translations on the size of a postage stamp more legibly than I could have ever written it. I'd even pass them out to friends. I forgot to write a huge paper in college, so I wrote just one page and printed it 20 times. I handed it in, and over the weekend finished the assignment. The next week the professor asked what happened, and I said it must have been a mistake with the printer. He said that's alright. Just print him out the full thing, and bring it next class. I got an extra week with no penalty. Back in '99 or so, when scientific calculators were newish, I think I got my own, rather than use the school ones. They would check our pockets and our stuff to make sure we didn't have a cheat sheet. They would check our calculators to make sure we didn't have anything written. However, I had a cheat sheet on paper on the inside of the calculator's cover which fit behind. So I showed my screen and that it was blank, but no one removed the lid. So I had to slide up the lid about an inch and had written everything down as tiny as I could. Cheated and got away with it. For some reason a school had the French test take place on a computer and the browser that was installed was Chrome, and Chrome has an auto-translate feature. Had a buddy take an online course. Wrote to the company that did the book/materials for the course saying he was a professor and wanted to use their materials for the course. They sent him all the answers and such. Brilliant. I have a full tattoo sleeve on my right arm and both of my hands done. When I had an upcoming test I hadn't studied for, I would write little keywords to make myself remember things inside my tattoos, and I'd write them in a similar color to the ink so, unless you were looking insanely close, you couldn't see them. Also, in high school my buddy and I had a system where he would signal what question he needed help with, and then I would hold up 1, 2, 4 fingers for AD. First we dumpster dived to get the mimeograph test. Yes, this was the 80s. We had to take the mimeograph to the dorm window backwards because it's a reversed image. The test was multiple choice, so place tiny pinholes running the length of the pencil. 1 hole for A, 2 holes for B, etc. It was a lot of work, but we actually had to miss a few to make it legit. On an online exam, I saw someone take the whole exam without even touching his computer. The mouse was moving and everything. Turns out he set up a remote desktop and had someone take it from home. This wasn't that genius. But my freshman year of college, I missed an exam and the professor let me take a Mac-oop in his office. I was failing miserably when I noticed his office phone. I called my roommate, had him open my notes, and he helped me get all the answers right. Not very genius but bousy. Edit. This was before widespread cell phone use, and I used the office phone. A girl I know wrote all the answers on her thigh, then wore tights to the exam. When she stretched the tights she could see the answers, but then let it go and cover it up. One class I had, we were given the essay questions in advance, so we knew what to study. During the test, we had to write the essays in class in blue books. I would write the essays in different blue books before the test and bring them and blank ones to class. At the end, I'd just switch out the completely filled out ones for the blank ones. It was such a hard class that I still never got a 100% on any of them. Best one I've heard of was a guy who was in band got a copy of the test for another class from someone who had the class earlier in the day. It was multiple choice. He transposed all the answers, A, B, C, or D, into musical notes. When they had to clear their decks before the test, he sat all his stuff on the ground with the sheet music on top. He had it divided into a specific number of notes per measure, so it was easy to find the one he was looking for. Record answers. Move recording to iPod. Earbud up through my hoodie sleeve. Place ear on hand, and listen to answers. Kid put earbud in his ear with snap notes running on repeat from his iPod. Cord ran through his sleeve, so he looked like he was resting his hand on his head as he wrote with the other. Not really cheating. But I heard about a class where the final was so comprehensive the professor told the class it was entirely open book, and they could bring in anything for reference they could carry. With the notable exception being a laptop with Wi-Fi. One guy apparently carried in his older brother on his back who was a tar for a higher level class in the same subject. Yeah. He got an A. Writing notes on a band-aid on the back of the hand. Pull it back to read. Then stick it back in place. Not really cheating per se. But during a physics exam, students were allowed to write as much as they want onto one side of a sheet of loose leaf to bring as a reference sheet. With this rule in mind, one student cut his sheet into a Mobius strip to effectively have twice as much space for writing notes. Stole this from the internet. We were allowed one 3x5 note card for the final, so I filled it up in blue ink with tiny writing. Then wrote over the top of that in red ink, and brought a clear piece of red and blue plastic with me. Teacher thought it was clever and allowed it. My nutrition class in college was online. My professor gave us a 10-question, multiple choice quiz every week, which she directly copied from Quizlet. Our final quiz is 1 to 10 in order. The kicker was that we had the ability to check our answers after each quiz, and she left those opened until the end of the semester. We had 5 hours to take the final, and I finished it in 11 minutes. 100%. Smart kid sits up front. Beneath him is a tile floor. The tile under the front left leg of his desk is answer A. The one to the right of that is B. The one down from A is C and the one beneath B is D. Smart kid uses his left leg to point to the answer. Now the question numbers. Question 1 is when smart kid coughs, which is synchronized to the class clock. Each minute is a new question answer. After a 20 minutes exam, 20 questions are answered by moving his foot. I was very bad at chemistry in senior year, but I needed to pass the final to get the class credit in order to graduate. So the day of the test I wore a very low cut top with a zip up hoodie over it. I wrote down all the formulas from the study guide onto my cleavage, zipped the hoodie up, and just looked down at my boobs under the hoodie during the test for all the answers. I figured I had nothing to get caught cheating with unless they demanded to see my cleavage. But that would never happen, because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't want to get sued. I passed the final, got the credit, and graduated. Had a friend complete a degree at Melbourne, and they would allow you to download the exam 2 days prior, and then send you the password on the time the exam would start. My mate went, send it to me, and I would brute force it, and give him the PW. He was able to practice the exam for 2 days, and completed his degree with flying colors. Unfortunately his life was cut short, but many great memories were made. R.I.P. Dave. Chapstick along the side of the Scantron where the red marks get dashed on wrong answers. Chapstick stops the red mark from being printed along the edge and the machine counts the red marks. One time for a middle school vocab test, remember the orange books? I wrote synonyms to the words I couldn't remember on my fingernails. After the test I just licked my fingertip and wiped them off. I sat in front of the really smart kid and cheated by listening to his pencil strokes. 2 strokes in quick succession with a small break before the third stroke was A. 1 then 2 quick ones was B. 1 was C. 2 was D. Did it a couple times, and always made a high B/low A. Last year in uni they gave us draft papers. Some cheap recycled thin kind. So we don't pull our own. They were either grey or green depending on the table. I always sit in the table that gets grey because I take them home and write answers on them with pencil. I wrote so lightly it was invisible to see, even for me on some occasions. This will get buried, but I think it's worth telling. Had an English teacher that was incredibly tech challenged. Our assignment was to write a paper. I completely forget. So I just got a blank disk and wrote my name etc on it and told him my printer was out of ink, but here's a copy. This was like 2006 freshman year of high school. I got a B for my blank disk. Edit. It wasn't a floppy disk. It was a CD. I store facts inside my head. Our school gave us Chromebooks, and we used this thing called Power Test to take quizzes on. Someone found out that you could use Inspect Element to find out what the answer was. It is now blocked. Sadly, our school may now not have a budget because of these Chromebooks. But we are now all top notch in figuring out ways past block sites and cheating on tests. Op didn't study. 1. Develop an eidetic memory. 2. 3. Profit. Tell exam you are going away for the weekend with your buddy. Get buddy to vouch for you. Spend the weekend with your side piece.